Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Fan Perspective. I am your host Nathan Lyle. Here it is Tuesday and this is Reflections from Week 14 in the NFL. I got a lot of games right, so let's look at some of the upsets that I called correctly. First we have... I picked Carolina to win. Honestly, I just sensed that I felt like they had a greater sense of urgency than the Falcons. I mean, the Falcons, they've got the division locked up, and it seems highly likely that they'll be the number one seed at the end of the year. And so yeah, I felt like Carolina had more to play for and would probably come out with more energy. And then Cincinnati, well, they put up quite a fight, I'm not going to lie. But once again, I chose the team that had more incentive to win. Because Cincinnati, even though they lost, they're still in the same position they were last week, where all they had to do is win. And they had to keep winning, and Pittsburgh just has to lose one, and suddenly Cincinnati's in the division. And the Cincinnati's in the playoffs, and now suddenly Baltimore losing, and now Cincinnati's still in the divisional hunt, and could end up at the top of the AFC North at the end of the year. And then we also have the Redskins. And I chose them once again for the same reason, sense of urgency. They're fighting for their destiny. The Baltimore, they're just not the same team anymore. RG3, he's been sensational. I went with the hot hand. And Cleveland, Indiana, St. Louis, they were locks to win simply because they had such weak opponents. And the Patriots, I chose them for one reason and one reason only. The Texans' defense has not been the Texans' defense that it was last year, the one that got them their first playoff win. It started when Brian Cushing went down, and they just weren't as scary as they used to be. And now suddenly, just how many weeks in a row? I mean, like 3 of the last 4 weeks, they've had allowed about 400 passing yards in the games. Their opponents are getting 30, 40 points a game, and they're just not doing enough anymore. And this time, their offense wasn't able to bail them out. And then I was wrong about a few different games too, though. Obviously, I called the New Orleans games wrong, and I'm gonna be completely straight with you. More than anything, I was optimistic about New Orleans winning just because I'm a Cowboys fan and I want the Giants to lose so we have a better chance to get into the playoffs. Pittsburg and Chicago have struggled recently, but they were going up against teams that had also been struggling, so those were basically a coin toss. I decided to choose the team that I felt had the better QB. And so yeah, it's just at the end of the week I am 11-5, so I still had I did a pretty decent job calling most of them. A few injuries went down this week. The biggest news that I heard, Dwayne Bowe has injured ribs. He's missing next week's games and could potentially miss the rest of the season. It's not like it's too big of a loss anyways. He's barely done anything this year, and Kansas sucks. It's not like we're going to see them in the playoffs. Jay Cutler had a neck injury, but he's expected to be fine for next week. RG3 left the game with a minor LCL sprain. He has not been ruled out for next week yet. Ahmad Bradshaw suffered from apparent knee and shoulder injuries, but so far it doesn't look as if he's in any danger of missing next week's game, though we're going to have to monitor his progress throughout the week and how often he practices, which, to be honest, that could end up being misleading just because they have been resting Bradshaw throughout the season because he is suffering through different injuries. However, the rookie David Wilson did look great this week, and so they might not play Bradshaw as much this week even if he is healthy, just because they do need him for playoffs. Fred Jackson, running back for the Buffalo Bills, he will miss the rest of the season with a knee injury, which means CJ Spiller is really getting the chance to show that he is a prime option out of the backfield. And the playoff picture in the AFC is still very much alive. The Bengals and the Steelers both lost, so now the Jets, Browns, and Chargers, who all won last week, are technically back in the hunt. However, they are still long shots to get in. Pretty much everything has to go right for them. They have to win all of their games, and 2 teams above them have to lose all of theirs. So it doesn't seem likely that they'll get in, but they do technically have a shot, though. And in the NFC, the Bears lost while the Cowboys, Redskins, Vikings, and Rams won. So right now, basically the entire NFC is in shambles, and it'll be interesting to see how the playoff picture ends up forming. And like I said, this week I had a record of 11-5 with my picks. My overall record on the season, 116-70. So yes, I pick more right than I do wrong. And like I said, next week like I said in some of my previous videos, next week I'm only gonna be doing games that have playoff implications. And Thursday's game does have playoff implications for at least one team. It's the Bengals at the Eagles, and the Eagles, they honestly seem to be a better team with Foles and Brown than they were with Vic and McCoy. They're still not quite as good as the Bengals, though. I fully expect the Bengals to keep their playoff hopes alive with the win this week. So that's it. I am not doing reflections from Week 14 in fantasy football. However, tune in for another episode. Tune in for an episode later today where I talk about players that I nominated for halfback of the year. And tune in. I'm not sure if I'm going to do a video on Friday. There will definitely be one on Saturday, and depending on how many games I end up actually predicting, because like I said, it's only going to be games that have playoff implications. I'm your host, Nathan Lyle. This has been the Fan Perspective. Happy Tuesday.